Welcome back, Goblin Chefs. It's APGAINS. Obviously, the game has been in turmoil, but CG is doing something, and I think taking it seriously about dramatically changing the game at a very fundamental level to help save it. So, just for some context, about 10 to 15 minutes after the first version of the alpha or beta or whatever you want to call it was launched, we were up and streaming it for, I think, a couple thousand people at the time. And it was the first time anyone in the world had seen footage of the game in the very earliest stages. And, you know, we had CG developers who were on the stream. It was a fun time. It was interesting. It was kind of surprising. It wasn't surprising because I had previously applied at the studio to, you know, be on the dev team or be on one of the teams that was working on this game prior to its being announced. And I had talked to some people about it, and ultimately CG is unloving of APGAINS and didn't want to give him a job. But all that being said, the vast sentiment was that the game would never be good, and everyone who had watched it, who was Galaxy of Heroes players, who was like the perfect number one target demographic for this game, people who are used to a franchise that is, I mean, if you're a Star Wars fan, there is a better than likely chance that you also enjoy the Lord of the Rings to some degree. Whether you enjoy it as much or as, you know, less is obviously going to change from person to person. I'm a person who the Lord of the Rings franchise is like one of the most fundamentally pivotal parts of my life. I mean, all of my early childhood development came from spending time with family and friends, and especially my father reading me the books and enjoying the movies as they came out and watching the old 1977 version and on the very first iPhone, you know, in my dad's office at Apple, like while they were ballooning up and becoming a giant company. Like, just the Lord of the Rings is incredibly important to me, and it is to a lot of you. And the general sentiment was that the graphics were dog shit and no one liked them. And for those of you guys who don't know, there's CG, and then there's EA, and then for Galaxy of Heroes, there's like Lucasfilm and Disney. That there's just like this ladder of bureaucracy that CG is just always bogged down by, and it's been a struggle for them and kind of makes things harder. And I don't think that the Galaxy of Heroes community quite gives CG enough credit for how much the bullshit they have to deal with for here. I mean, they didn't have access to the movies, they didn't have the license. They had, I think, the books and then maybe the appendices. You know, not the Silmarillion, not any of the cool shit with the updated graphics and stuff like that from the movies that everyone loves so much. And the biggest problem for this game was that it was not visually appealing, and it was so early stages that no one liked it. Now, obviously, as, you know, GAC comes to this game and TW, and there's more raids and there's more content and more characters, obviously, I think it's pretty cut and dry that the game is going to be more fun to play. But as far as the graphics are concerned, that's still a huge barrier to entry for 90% of people who could potentially play this game. Like, we get used to it, and like, I'm not super opposed to it right now, but if these were the movie versions of these characters, I think we can all agree that we would enjoy the game more from a visual standpoint, since 90% of this game is just looking at stuff. You can't even spin. They got rid of the feature to fucking spin characters too, which just kind of pissed me off. But more so than the existing players, it would help new players come in because it would be cool. It would be awesome. I love the books as much as the next person, and probably more. But when I think about a video game and Lord of the Rings, I think about like the early 2010s. I was playing this like Xbox 360 Lord of the Rings game where you like go through it was like Battlefield, or not Battlefield. It was like a Battlefront, but for Lord of the Rings, and there was a little bit of online, and there was kind of a community, and the game was fucking cool, and it looked like the movies, and it was fucking badass, and it was awesome, and that's what people want. If CG wants to get people into this game, that's what they need to do. And I should have talked about this at the beginning, but there's a survey link in the description where you can literally tell them that that's what you want. It's a very long survey. It's going to take you a while. I highly recommend, if you care about this game or want this game to be better than it is right now, that you fill out the survey. But they are giving you the option to, I would argue, massively move the needle in one direction to get them to maybe fork up I mean, they've made a $1.5 billion, you know, minus all of the money that they had to pay to all the different third parties that they owe money to. But CG has cash. They have cash. They have the ability, they have the connections, they can get the licenses, and I think this is how we're going to pressure them to do it. And I give huge props, as always, to Crumb for kind of leading that effort as for the company. I know he's not necessarily 100% connected to the Lord of the Rings itself, as opposed to kind of more just the broader company, since Meaty Boy took over Galaxy of Heroes and HOM-E is running Lord of the Rings. But I mean, he's been a star for them for so long, and I think that whoever's idea this was, whether it was his or someone on his teams or whatever, this is the right thing for them to do, and this is going to help move us in the direction of adding content that people want to see, but also, updating the graphics to a point where the masses will want to play this game and not just us who are like the mega diehard fans who will play any Lord of the Rings game no matter what. So link in the description, fill out the survey. As always, I love you, and I'll see you later.